Hello, wonderful galactic beings, and welcome to Lucinda Soul. My name is Selinda, and in this video, I'm going to show to you how I explained the fifth dimension to my 11-year-old daughter. And so she came to me and she was like, "What is the fifth dimension, Mom?" And since we've been talking about it, and I was like, how do I explain that to her in her terms, right? And she loves the Rubik's Cube. She's been solving the 3x3x3, and I just got her the 4x4x4, and I really love this one because it doesn't have a centerpiece, so all the pieces are independent of each other and they don't have to align to a centerpiece with a predefined color. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna explain to her the fifth dimension with this Rubik's cubes. And before we get into that, I also wanted to explain to her that really the third dimension needs to be better understood first. So I was like, Daphne, you know, the first dimension, one dimension, is something really easy. You know that. It's just a line, right? And the second dimension has a length and a width. So it's sort of like a piece of paper. When you draw or paint, you paint on a piece of paper or a canvas, and it's flat, and that's 2 dimensions. And then we move on to 3 dimensions where we create sculptures, or we print with a 3D printer, or we watch a movie with special glasses where we have depth. So we move on to length, width, and height. So we have 3 dimensions. And I was like, but there's just more to that. We perceive this with our 5 senses. So this is why we are in this world that we perceive as being materialistic. It has matter, so we can touch it, it's tangible, and it has these 3 dimensions which we perceive with our 5 senses. And the other thing that we do, so I explained to her in the third dimension, what we do is we engage in polarizing topics. So we tend to disagree on topics, and we get emotionally involved, and we get divided, we get separated, and we start arguing and rallying, and we basically stay in a lower level of consciousness. So I've been talking a lot about consciousness levels, and I explained it to her as well. So when we start polarizing and arguing and debating and making ourselves heard, we tend to engage in with our emotions that dip into lower levels of consciousness, mostly anger and fear. But there are other levels such as guilt and shame, but mostly we are below the threshold of 200, which is courage. So I told her, listen, in my perspective, I think the 3D world is all the lower consciousness levels below the threshold of 200, so below courage. And the fourth dimension is when we move into willingness, into acceptance, into neutrality, into reason. So this is more where we see a bigger picture. And then we move into the fifth dimension when we talk about love and joy and peace, and we zoom out and, you know, don't miss the forest for the trees. So I told her that, and then I told her, listen, to explain it furthermore, I will show you this Rubik's Cube, and imagine this is not a 4x4x4, but this is a 2000 by 2000 by 2000 Rubik's Cube. So a huge Rubik's Cube making up 8 billion small little pieces, okay? 8 billion. So roughly a representation of the population of planet Earth, all right? So let's imagine there's this piece here and this huge Rubik's Cube, and there's this piece here, okay? Let's attach a persona to these pieces, okay? So this is a white female 30-year-old vegan social democrat, and this piece here is a black male 50-year-old conservative meat eater, okay, carnivore. All right, So will they agree on all the topics in their that is important for them in their lives? Will they agree to all the values? Probably not, right? They have different priorities, different needs, and that's why they're gonna disagree on a lot of topics, probably, right? And they will agree to disagree, maybe. That would be nice and be respectful. But most of the time, we start really separating ourselves and start arguing and trying to, be right. So the other one is wrong and we are right, and we do everything to make sure that we stay right. So our egos does everything to be right. So we engage in separation and division, okay, creating polarity, all right? Instead, we should be trying to find things that we do agree on, and remembering that this giant Rubik's Cube is one piece. It is one. And we are all a piece of that one Rubik's Cube, okay? So can we agree on being just human? Okay. Can we agree on that we do have the right to have access to clean water, clean air, shelter, and I would even go further, a piece of land, calling it our home land, where we have access to food, grow our own food. Can we agree on that, or is that already far-fetched? So can we agree that we are all human? Maybe we should just start from scratch, all right? And so this is what I was trying to explain to her. So 3D is really is engaging us in polarity. And as we engage in polarity and have our anger issues and our fear issues coming up, we stay in a lower level of consciousness. Okay, so as we move on into 4D, 4D is really the Rubik's Cube with a shadow, right? So we have light here coming in from the sun, let's say, okay? And we have some units here that are enlightened, that feel the sun, that move into higher consciousness levels, and they feel the love and the peace and the joy, and they influence the other units, and we manage to have a shadow here that we see clearer and clearer because the contrast is getting stronger and stronger, and there's even more polarity happening. So as we see this shadow that is cast upon us, and there's going to be polarity between this piece of shadow here and this piece of 3D matter element here. And there might be even a polarity within the shadow, right? With different opinions there and different labelings and categorizing ourselves there. Okay, so how do we move into the fifth dimension? It is by zooming ourselves out and disengaging from polarity. So I'm not saying not to stand up for truth. I'm not saying don't take any action. No, I'm saying take action, stand up for your truth, but do it out of the perspective of love. Do it out of love. It has to come from the heart. Make it count. Do it out of love for humanity, and do it out of love for all the children that are to be born and that are here on planet Earth right now. Right? We are doing it for them, for love, for the love of humanity and the good that is in us. Okay, so if we do that, and not out of fear and not out of anger, and we zoom out and we see the whole picture. And what is the whole picture? This fifth dimension is when we see the inside of the cube. It's when we feel the inside and all that is around the cube and around the shadow. It's what we see and feel inside each unit of these 8 billion pieces here. It's when we see it all, okay? It's when we see it all, the entire picture, everything zoomed out from above. And I think we can do it. I think we can do it. So this is this. I have some notes here just to make sure that I didn't forget anything. Oh, I did forget something. So I told her, Daphne, you know, remember when you were a toddler and we were playing hide and seek? And she's like, no, not really. And I'm like, there was such a nice, how do you say, there was like this, I had this insight just looking at her, and it was about death, right? So we think that we die in 3 dimensions, we die, and then life is over. Okay, so I was like, when you were a toddler and we used to play hide and seek, you were just closing your eyes and you thought that I wouldn't see you. And I thought it was so funny, because just because you didn't see me, it didn't mean that I didn't see you. So I was telling her that, and I was like, in 3D, it's exactly the same. We think just because we are not seen in our physical bodies anymore, we think that nothing else is seeing us, as if we were closing our eyes. Nothing else is seeing us. No other entity is seeing us. Nothing else is out there. So when we die, we think everything is over, but it's not true. This is the 3D world, okay? So we just go somewhere else and we just don't know about it, okay? But we can feel it. We can feel it. And this is where we enter a new realm of perception. Right? It's not about our 5 senses. It's just more than that. It's our intuition. It's our heart. It's something that maybe we can't define right now, but it's something that we have as human beings that we can feel. And we are being told that we should cast our feelings and emotions away, and that logic is the way to go, and that we need computers and AI to move forward as human beings. Yes, we can use them as tools to be better human beings, but let's just appreciate who we are first, okay? So this is what I told her as well. I did want to mention one more thing. So if you are one of the individuals who thinks that you are odd and you are super sensitive and you already can feel a lot, and you feel lonely and cast away and marginalized, just remember this. I wanted to read this to you from the book of Dr. David R. Hawkins, The Map of Consciousness Explained. And I really love to refer to this book because it summarizes a lot of his work. So I'm going to read this to you, so you remember who you are, and your voice is important. One individual at level 300, which is the consciousness level of willingness, counterbalances 90,000 individuals below level 200. Okay? One individual at level 400, which is the level of reason, so a lot of scientists there, counterbalances 400,000 individuals below the level of 200. One individual at level 500, which is the level of love, the level of unconditional love is 540. It counterbalances 750,000 individuals below level 200. One individual at level 600, which is the level of peace, counterbalances 10 million individuals below the level of 200. 10 million. One individual at level 700 counterbalances 70 million individuals below level 200. 700 is the level of enlightenment. So please remember, every voice counts, and every individual who is above the consciousness level of 200, who already perceives the fourth dimension, who already perceives the fifth dimension, every one of you count. Okay? Yeah, I think that's about it. So I told her, just remember that we are all one. We are one. And even the shadow is part of it. Even the shadow is part of it. Don't see it just as evil and good. You know, there's if there's no light, there's no darkness. There's no darkness without light. So let that light shine bright within ourselves and appreciate that we have the opportunity to make a difference in our lives. And let's appreciate that because we see the darkness and because we have the ability to discern, we can make a difference. And we can perceive truth. We can perceive truth as human beings. All right. That's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. And remember, stay luminous.